The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Magic Mike Show, episode 599. It's special not just because we are one away from 600, but with Magic out, I am also joined by John Gasper here, a friend of mine and a phenomenal handicapper who is a Saratoga transient here this summer. You've been up there for almost a full month now. You're staying for all of August. How's the meet treating you? How you doing, John?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Very kind words about my handicapping ability. The windows don't seem to agree with you so far this month. Yeah, I've been here since the beginning of July. I came up for the July 4th meet and then the official opening day. And I was doing well. And then the last couple of weeks, I've hit a bit of a snag. I think the track so far has been playing fair. I thought early in July, the track was speed favoring and inside, preferably inside, not as much speed. But I thought it's been fair the past couple of days here and the end of last week as well.
Yeah, I thought this turf specifically has played a lot more fair the last couple of weeks. We saw gate to wire winners specifically going 5.5, just left, right, and center early on in this meet. We've seen a lot of horses have the ability to close now. I think the inside's still very good. Obviously, important to save ground at Saratoga over those turf courses, but you are seeing more and more horses being able to come from the back, which is something that was not nearly as present early on in the meet. We'll see with the weather if that switches up. One of the interesting parts about Saratoga for me, John, is every time it rains, you almost have to get a couple races under your belt before you know how this track is going to play again, because we've seen inside speed good on the muddy track. We've also seen outside closers do well on a muddy track, and same with the turf courses. So every time we get rain, you have to make those little adjustments. We did have rain yesterday, but it is fast and firm today. Weather should be great tomorrow as well. So it looks like we're going to have a nice, beautiful New York weekend here for Whitney weekend and get that fast and firm as well as the fast track tomorrow.
Yeah, and it was 55 here this morning. It's going to be 70 this afternoon. I think the turf course is going to be great. And going back to your speed comment on the turf, it was also both turf courses. Quite often you may have the inner that favors speed with their tight turns, but the outer you can still close. But like you were saying, at the beginning of the meet, everything on the lead on both courses was very tough to beat.
Now, for those of you who don't know, John, one of the phenomenal tournament players out there. You've been to NHC, I can't even count how many times at this point. It's how we actually met each other, was through tournaments as well. And you've been doing a podcast as well around the tournament side. Nick Seaver is a big fan of that, so I wanted to give you a shout out there as well.
Thank you. Yeah, that's been great. The past about 7 weeks, I've been finding a tournament winner from the prior weekend and talking about their tournament strategy, whether it's a $2 pick and pray tournament that we see online all the time, or whether it's a live money bankroll tournament through Express Bet or in person. I've had some pretty good guests on there. Marshall Graham, the most notable. This past weekend, I had Dick Girardi, who's a great handicapper, and he's a great storyteller. So he was a good listen to as well.
Yeah, I love I'm a huge proponent of tournaments. We talk about them a lot on this show. I think it's a great way to spend your money because you have a reduced takeout there, and you also can have a lot of fun. And there's an $800 Whitney tournament over on Twin Spires I think is very interesting. If anyone's playing that, just turn the podcast off now because you're going to hear a lot about my opinions and what I would be playing later in that tournament. It's going to be a fun Whitney day. The card top to bottom is absolutely phenomenal. You've got some great 2-year-olds running early in the card. We're going to cover the pick 5 here from races 7 to 11. So we're going to have a ridiculously wide open or first race here in the 7th with 14 entries that is an N1X allowance condition, and then go into the 4 stakes races. We both have press tickets. So I wanted, before we get into the actual tickets, I wanted to just talk about your pick 5 strategy. I always talk about saying I want to press my opinion, especially if I'm playing a little smaller ticket on the early or on the 50-cent pick 5 side. Do you usually play press tickets, and is that part of your strategy trying to attack these sequences?
Yeah, I definitely play it that way. I haven't always, but in the last couple of years, I've really started to put more money on my strongest opinions. And I think it's from listening to other handicappers who have done this for a living and do it well. And that was always their idea as well. They want the home run. If they're exactly right, they want to make sure they collect as if they were exactly right. So if you just play a spread ticket or even an A, B, C structure ticket for 50 cents and you hit, well, great. But if you can get 5 A's to win, I don't want just the minimum payout. I want 5 times that payout or 10 times that payout. And it's not that expensive. So My press ticket today, I'm single by two, by single by two, by single. That's 4 combinations. I can play that for $5 or 10 times the minimum bet for $20. So if I have a budget of anywhere from $80 to $200 to play a pick five, or even much smaller, even if I have 20 to 60, I can still play a $20 press ticket if I'm exactly right and try to take home the track. And if I'm not exactly right, I have a spread ticket like I do that's $60 for 50 cents. Well, my whole bet is $80, still with the chance of taking home 10 times the minimum payoff.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun show because John likes long shots. It's one of the reasons he's so good at tournaments. I got really creative inside this sequence. We both have press tickets. Both of them, I have a $5 press for $20, so exact same structure you mentioned. You've got a $2 press for $8. We're only sharing one single inside those two press tickets. So we're going to get a lot of differing opinions and horses that you can try and key on if you would like to throughout this sequence. So without further ado, John, let's jump into it. Let's start handicapping some Saratoga here. All right, we're going to kick it off here with Saratoga race number 7. This is a $75,000 N2X allowance. We have got 14 entries going postward here in what is a very competitive race. The favorite, the number 11, Credit Worthy, 3-1 on the morning line. Chad Brown, Flavian Pratt, neither of us using this horse, which I'm pretty excited about because this is the stereotypical favorite I want to fade. 3 straight turf races, goes onto the dirt, pops a 91 buyer, beats 5 other turf horses because it was rained off the turf course, and now you're sitting there as a favorite. When I looked at this sequence, I knew I'd like it right away because I knew I wanted to beat this horse. You're in the same boat here. You're not using the 9. Who are you using? Who's your top pick here?
My top pick is actually the 7 horse, Speakeasy. He's a real ouchie horse. He only has 5 starts. He's halfway through his 4-year-old year, but his best starts are when he's fresh. So he runs big, and then he falls apart really quickly. He broke his maiden first time out, ran a large time form U.S. number, then was on the shelf for almost 6 months. Came right back at Saratoga, ran another good time form U.S. number, wins again at Saratoga. Next race back, falls apart, goes on the shelf again. Comes back at Gulfstream, runs second, but runs an equivalent number to when he broke his maiden. Runs in Keeneland, falls apart. Now he's been on the shelf again for the last 120 days. First start back, he changes trainers from Pleccia to Gustavo Delgado, which I'm not thrilled with. But if the horse is even a semblance of his former self, I think he can beat these with that effort that he's had, both breaking his maiden and his first level allowance. And he's 10-1 morning line, which is a bonus to me.
Yeah, this is a horse that, yeah, you can't forget the 10-1 there. This is one of those that I struggled with, this specific horse, because I didn't know what to do with Speakeasy. He was a horse that, as you mentioned, lightly raced, was highly touted as a 2-year-old early in his career, and a lot of people thought you were going to see big things here. The barn switch is what got me. I wasn't sure what to do with him. I ended up leaving this horse off. This would be one of those where if you're really spreading in this race, playing a 50-cent ticket, I don't hate the idea of using him, especially at 10-1. Elliott, who was very good prior to Saratoga, is aboard. I know that's a lot of people's favorite jockey to kind of go after prices with in NYRA, and we'll see if he's able to do it here. That was one that I did leave off, though. Top pick for me, and a horse I am going to single in the press ticket here. The number 13, Jefferson Street, for Bill Mott, Junior Alvarado rides. It's a horse that on debut ran well here at 7 furlongs, came back and eventually broke the maiden at Keeneland going 6.5, but has a very, very good N1X level race here at Saratoga going 6.5 furlong, popped a 102 buyer, and then went and tried Stakes Company and was in, the grade 2 Amsterdam, the grade 1 Allen Jerkins, eventually the grade 3 49er, ran well in all of those spots, but now gets the class break that he needs, drops back down to the level that I think is appropriate for him. And Bill Mott at Saratoga, you have certain horses that you can just tell are going to pop. This is one of those Bill Mott horses that when you look at it, nope, this horse is going to be fit and ready to roll here. The goal is clearly to run well here and head to a stakes race off of it. I think Jefferson Street is going to be dialed up, and there's a lot of speed in this race as well. I think it sets up for someone who is able to stalk and pounce. This horse has early tactical speed. You're not going to be dead last, and the outside trip I think is fine here, especially going 7. because you're going to have a lot of mess on the inside. And so you use the tactical speed, you sit there, say you're 4, 5, 6 lengths off the lead, and then you just go 3 wide into the far turn and you run down everybody. I think Jefferson Street has a huge shot here at 9-2 to take home the first leg of this pick 5.
Yeah, and I have just Jefferson Street on my ticket as well. I went 5 deep in this first leg, but as Mike said, on my press ticket, I actually singled the 7 horse. So we're already different in our singles for the first leg. Jefferson Street makes a lot of sense. Again, for all the reasons you listed, his trip seems to make perfect sense sitting behind what's going to be the speed on the inside. All the speed seems to be down low, 1, the 2, the 4. And in a 14-horse field, they go faster than you think they're going to go anyway. So he should be able to come in, tuck in a little bit, save a little bit of ground around the turn, and then come home. My other choice in that, go ahead.
I was going to say, this is a race we both spread in, so I'll let you kick it off here. Where else are we going?
Yeah, so my second choice in the race was the number 10 Pentathlon. I thought he had some interesting form coming into this race. So Shuggs, it takes him a while to get his horses going. They always seem to improve after their layoffs. So this is his 4th back off the layoff. Came back at Keeneland going 7 furlongs, ran fine and faded late. Then he missed the break going 6 at Churchill. And then his last race at Saratoga on June 7th, he ran another hole in the wind. He ran a nice 1:13 time form USA number, going 7 furlongs on the track. The track was sloppy, so I'm a little hesitant that he moved up in the slop. But he's got some past figures that are very similar on dry tracks here at Saratoga. So I thought he was another one that was going to sit a good trip, mid-pack, just off the speed, and he was going to be able to get that same run as Jefferson Street. And he might start in front of Jefferson Street so he gets a better first run.
Yeah, 10 made my ticket as well. It was the 5th horse on for me, so the last horse on the ticket. But this is one where I like looking for horses that love Saratoga. And this horse really likes Saratoga. I thought the win at a mile here was very good, so I don't have any issues around going 7 furlongs. Was able to win. You mentioned it last time in the slop. It has a huge Tomlinson wet rating, so you would expect he's going to run well in the slop. But again, you go back to the maiden breaking score. That was a big number. A tough to win out of the Wilson Chute with a big number like that. Went 137. We'll talk about some of the times that we've seen for even the Met Mile out of the Wilson Chute, which was significantly higher than that. So I do think that the 10 very interesting here, especially at a 10-1 price. Second pick for me was actually the 5 Dilger here, who's in this race for Saffie Joseph, Irad Ortiz. But before we get to it, I do have something I want to bring up here. So yes, I don't know what I'm doing, so that is why it took me a little while to pull up the Equibase to chat all over me here, ragging me for not having that up. I don't usually do that. That's something that Magic or Aaron does. So you got to just hang in there. We'll get everything going here as we go along, John. Curtis Manlow brings up the only horse Jefferson Street has lost to on Lasix since breaking the maiden was a puppy named Raging Torrent. Obviously, Raging Torrent, very good horse. What's your take on the on Lasix, off Lasix when you're handicapping? Is that something that goes into your handicapping? Because I know a lot of people in the chat do have a big Lasix bias where, like, hey, if they're running well with Lasix and then they go to stakes races and don't run well, if they get back to that Lasix, they're a horse I want to use.
I'm torn. I think it's very horse specific, and without a big database, which you're never going to get on a specific horse running multiple races on and off, I just go by the horse's performance. If I can give myself a narrative on why he ran poorly in a stakes race without thinking about Lasix, especially colts or especially male horses, I'm much more forgiving of the Lasix on, Lasix off. I think the Lasix on, Lasix off affects the female horses a lot more. I see a lot more variance in their performance on Lasix, off Lasix. And in that case, I will downgrade them significantly. For the colts and the male horses, I really don't look at it that much. It doesn't really affect my handicapping a lot.
With horses like Jefferson Street, it's also tough because the races where you don't have Lasix or stakes, you're going to face better fields. And so like you're naturally not going to run as well if you are not a top level stakes horse. And that makes it hard for me sometimes to go back and forth. But hey, since it's a single for me and top pick, I like Curtis's point. It's only lost to one horse when not having Lasix there. Second pick for me was Dilger, the 5 horse here. This is just a horse I think trips out. 6-1, you get Irad aboard for Saffie. First start later in the 4-year-old season, something that I like to target for horses. Feels like they were looking to bring this horse back to Saratoga as well, and specifically target races like this for this barn. I think the trip is what really pulled me toward this horse. I thought ran really well in the grade 2 Carter, 2-back at Aqueduct, 7 furlongs. Well, has yet to win it. The distance has clearly been a good distance for this horse, and has placed multiple times in stakes races. 3 of the 4 efforts at 7 furlongs were all in stakes company. So I'm willing to kind of say, hey, you've ran second once and third twice in those 4 efforts. Not a big issue for me that you haven't clicked the win off. It seemed like needed a break when the break came here for this horse, and now you get the setup where tactical speed matters in this spot. I think he sits in that first flight right behind the speed. Irad gets first run. We'll see if he's good enough. At 6-1, I'm willing to take a shot here.
Yeah, and Dilger was on my ticket as well. He was my 4th horse up for all the same reasons. And I have in my notes they had a couple of wide trips, his last 2. This time he figures to save a little ground just behind the speed as well. If he saves ground with Ortiz up, or Jose Ortiz in this case, I don't see any reason why he can't make a run as well. And I mean, we're all predicating this too on the 1 and the 2 being the cheap speed and setting it up for horses coming from behind. Well, I don't have either of them on my ticket.
I'm glad you brought that up. I do think the 2 is cheap speed. I think the 1 has a little bit more than cheap speed here. I think the 1 is a little bit interesting. I like these horses that are cutting back from a 1.16 miles that show speed, that I think have enough speed to possibly get the lead in sprint races. You get Jose Ortiz aboard for Safi. If I'm using one, I kind of feel like I should be using the other in this spot, especially since I do think that the 1 has a chance to clear the 2. And if that's the case, I'll take a chance here with inside speed at Saratoga, especially 10-1 in a race that I am spreading. So don't love Hold My Bourbon, but I do think Hold My Bourbon, one of those horses where if you're going to spread in a 50-cent ticket, I kind of want the leader in the 14-horse field. And I think the 1 is the leader here in this spot. You did take one other horse that I did not hear. You like the 3 Echo again at 10-1, who I know got some love in the chat as well.
Yeah, I mean, he was the same reasons as we like Jefferson Street and Pentathlon. He's going to get what I think is a really good stalking trip. It's going to be, and he's on the inside. He's going to have Jefferson Street and Pentathlon on the outside. Who's going to sit the better trip? That's the question. I think Echo again can. He's got Velasquez with Cassie. We talked about horses for courses. This is another one. He won his at Saratoga at 6.5 furlongs. He broke his maiden there, so I know he likes the course. I think he's in a good spot for Norm Cassie with Velasquez up. Again, at 10-1, he's a horse that I think can win the race. Is not going to harm my equity in the pick 5 when I'm going deep. So he was a horse that I wanted to include on the ticket.
And we talked about the Lasix on, Lasix off. This is one thing I do look at, and that is fast track versus wet track performance. Echo, again, getting a fast track, I think a positive. He's 3 for 12 in his career over a fast track, 0 for 6 over a wet track. Now, he's supposed to love off tracks, but you haven't seen the win yet. And so I'm willing to look to the actual results versus the breeding and the Tomlinson at this point and say maybe Echo again wants a fast track, which he should get here on Saturday. Last pick for me in this race, I'm going to go all the way to the outside to the number 14 horse, 24 Mamba. I liked the last race at Saratoga. That was over a muddy track. And this is another horse where the fast versus muddy are 2 very, very different things in this case. 0 for 6 on a wet racetrack, 5 for 20, including being in the money 12 of those 20 starts on a fast racetrack. Again, supposed to be fast at Saratoga on Saturday. I want to move 24 Mamba forward a little bit. And when we talk a lot about jockeys we don't like or we're unimpressed with here, Ricardo Santana Jr. has been riding his tush off at this Saratoga meet. He has been doing a phenomenal job of putting his racehorses in a position where they can win races, and it's really started to come to fruition here. 18% so far at the meet. I've been very impressed with what he has been able to do, so I want to include Ricardo Santana Jr. in the number 14, 24 Mamba on the ticket as well at 10-1. This is a fun race because, we're using a 9-2 and a 6-1. Every other horse we picked is in double digits here. So kicking off the pick 5 here, race number 7, John's going to go with the 3, 5, 7, 10, 13. I'm going to go with the 1, 5, 10, 13, 14. And don't worry, we'll go through all of these tickets at the end. And Benjamin will talk about the press ticket at the end of the show as well. So you'll see the full 50-cent ticket and the press ticket toward the end of the show. Benjamin had one other question here as well. Any general rule of thumb when Irad and Jose both have mounts in a race? If they're both on speed, then I really care. In a field like this, not as big of a factor to me. What about you, John?
I think it's much ado about nothing. When they say, they open the rail for each other, I mean, they don't. I don't agree with that. They're both getting paid. If you win the race, you get 10%. If you lose the race, you get 7%. they're not going to let the other win. If they're not going to get into a pace duel either. They're happy to run 1-2 all the way around the track and then let the best horse win coming down the lane. But I don't think they do anything nefarious. I just handicap him as the horse itself. And I think Irad's a better rider in general, although Jose has been riding great lately. And I don't mind Jose on the turf one bit, and I think he's every bit of Irad's equal on the turf. So I think they play it straight up, even though that sometimes it may, quote unquote, look funny.
Yeah, as long as they're not both on speed horses, I feel the exact same way. When they're on speed horses, you can it's like two Bafferts. When they're the two speeds, they're going to block for each other because it's in both of their best interests to do so.
Correct.
And so I think that's the only time that you really have to look at the Ortiz brothers and adjust your handicapping because of it. All right, let's move into the stakes race portion of the program here and head over to race number 8 on Saturday's Saratoga card. As you can see, I'm just not as good as this is Magic, so you just have to deal with me. This is the 4-star Dave, grade 1, going a mile on the turf. Might be my favorite race of the entire Saratoga season at this point, John. I absolutely love this field, and I love one specific horse that you didn't use as well. So I'll let you go first. Who's the top pick here?
My top pick is actually Spirit of St. Louis. He's probably better, a little bit better, going a little bit longer, 1 1/8, 1 16. But this horse to me is still completely underrated. He's won big turf races at prices, and he still doesn't get bet. I mean, he wins the Pegasus Turf at 8-1. He won a race at Keeneland. I don't have my past performance up. So he wins the Pegasus Turf at 7-1. Runs a clunker in a grade 2. He comes back at Churchill in the Turf Classic, wins again at 3-1. Last year he won at Aqueduct at a 200K stake. He's just an all-out good horse that runs great figures and still doesn't get bet. I always want a horse like that, especially when he's not going to be the favorite in the race. So that's why I ended up with him in my top pick. I thought he was going to sit a really good trip. He has some tractable speed. There's a real speed horse in my boy Prince, and then you got Deterministic in this field who hasn't won unless he's been on the lead, but it's been going longer. So there might be a little bit of pace in front of him that he can come and run down as well.
Yeah, I use Spirit of St. Louis as well here. I like the price here at 6-1 to be able to get a piece of him. I feel like because he was a state-bred horse for so long, people don't give him enough credit for what he's been able to accomplish outside of that. I was a doubter. I will totally admit that. After the Pegasus World Cup Turf Invitational, I said, show it to me again. And he did in the Turf Classic at Churchill Downs, taking down grade 1 company there, including a couple of horses that I thought were very good inside that field. And Mercante been running phenomenal, ran second in that spot. I do like the other Chad Brown a lot, though. The number 6 Intellect, top pick for me here, 5-1 on the morning line. This is a horse where if you didn't watch the last 2 races and you didn't go back and understand the track conditions on those days, I think you downgrade Intellect too much here. And specifically, you go back to the race 2 back at Saratoga, the grade 3 poker going a mile, where this horse was just up against it. Donegal Momentum that day, I think, was like 5-6-1 on the morning line, goes off at 3-1. A horse I used in tournaments. It was lone speed on a speed favoring turf course, and Intellect still able to close. I thought that effort was phenomenal. They go the mile in 1:34. They go the final quarter of a mile in 22 and 4. And Intellect closed 3 lengths in that time. So Intellect was absolutely flying in a turf course that was favoring speed and you weren't able to close on. Fast forward to the Kelso. And I think if you ask Flavian Pratt about that ride, he would tell you he made a mistake. That day, turf speed was playing incredibly well. And that was the first time we really saw the pace move forward. We saw a faster pace in that race than we had in previous efforts. They went to half in 46-2. Intellect was a half length off the lead of that 46-2. In the poker, they went to half in 48, and he was 6 lengths off and able to close. He was just simply too close to the pace. And I think he learned that lesson in the next race when we saw Fionn knock off Nitrogen coming from off the pace. And Pratt adjusted his style after seeing Intellect basically run out of gas in the last furlong after getting the lead toward the top of the stretch. I think Intellect is sitting on a big one. I'm willing to put Intellect on top here 5-1, even though cost me a BCBC seat for losing that race. I had a large win wager on Intellect in that race where I would have been BCBC bound had he got it done. I think the 6 runs back huge, and I think Pratt gives him a better ride today. So Intellect to the 6, my top pick. Why did you not use the 6 Intellect?
I was there on the July 10th race and the Kelso, and visually he fell apart late. He got to the front, he started wandering, he started looking around, and Think Big, who I thought had no chance stretching out from 5.5 to a mile, really ran him down like I thought he was standing still. And that's a problem for me. And I have a bias about that from that type of watching that race. I think you make a good case the reasons why he did that. He made a big move into a fast pace. In the time form, those fractions, the third fraction and fourth fraction, are both coded red. So they were fast. And he made up ground into that, past two horses to get to the lead at the 16th hole. So I can see where you're coming from, but I have a hard time getting over how Think Big went right on by him. And Think Big is back in this race, second time going a route of ground with, in my opinion, better speed figures to begin with. And I'm not sure that Intellect is going to be able to turn the tables, even with a better ride by Pratt.
We're both using Think Big. So let's get that one out of the way. I Think Big is my second horse in the race because I do respect what he was able to do going the route of ground. I thought it was a little odd that Jose Ortiz jumps off to ride the number 2 My Boy Prince and Luis Saez jumps on Think Big. And he can like that was a legitimate concern for me when handicapping this horse, because after winning that, why would you jump off? Why would you go to My Boy Prince, who I love the horse, probably not a big shot on Saturday to win the race? Did that affect your handicapping at all? And you are using Think Big, correct?
I am using Think Big. He was my second choice in the race. It does bother me a little, but it seems to me that Think Big is an easy horse to ride. So he had Ben Curtis when he was in the fairgrounds in Keeneland. They grabbed Jose for the first race here. In the past, he's had Brian Hernandez. He's had Irad on him. So it's not like he has his own house rider that rides Think Big. So I'm less concerned when a horse jumps off. Because it was Jose's first time on the horse last time, I'm wondering if it was a one and done anyway, that they told him, yeah, we need a rider for this mount, but no guarantees going forward. Or even opposite, Jose had already told him, I have a commitment for the 4-star Dave, or I already have a commitment with a certain trainer. So I'm less concerned about it. If they ended up getting, no offense taken, Romero Mirage or somebody else, and it wasn't who I would consider to be a top-level journeyman like Saez, I'd be a lot more concerned that a good rider jumps off and they can only get a mediocre journeyman to get on.
Yeah, it wasn't a big enough move for me to not want to put Think Big on there, who I thought was really impressive in the Kelso. I mean, especially considering what I think of Intellect. I got to kind of use Think Big here if I'm going with Intellect there. So you ended up 3 deep, 4, 6, 7. I ended up 3 deep, 4, 6, 7 I ended up 3 deep, 4, 6, 7. You ended up 3 deep. Who else are you using in this spot?
The 8 was my third choice on the ticket, Deterministic. So I am not a big fan of My Boy Prince. I think he's a bit of a faker going long. I think he's much better as a turf sprinter, and I wish they would just leave him there. I think he could win a lot of races sprinting, whether it's 5.5 down here or 6 back up in Woodbine. So I think Deterministic is actually going to sit a great trip if they want to just let him sit just behind My Boy Prince. Let My Boy Prince go. Know he's going to come back to you. Have Deterministic sit right behind him, right on the rail, save ground. I don't want the too wide trip. I don't want him pressing on his hind end. I want him to literally be right behind him and drafting right behind My Boy Prince on the fence. And then at the top of the lane, tip out and really get first run and see if Deterministic is good enough coming down the lane.
Yeah, that's my biggest fear. You know, Justin Dew, a tournament player, talks about the trip of death. I didn't give him credit on another podcast because I guess he's coined this. But Deterministic looks like the trip of death here to me, where they I don't think he goes to the rail. I think he just sits too wide this whole race, and that's not the trip that I want because I do think My Boy Prince a little faster on the inside. 2 things we should talk about here before we move on. First off, neither of us using the number 3 Johannes, who's the favorite here at 5-2. I didn't really know what to do with this horse, and at a short price, I didn't really want to use it. That was kind of my general thought on this. Clearly a very good miler. I thought ran really well in the Breeders' Cup mile last year, but we've never seen him outside of California. Yakteen ships him out here with Spoli to ride. The price is what got me. I get it if you want to use this horse, but long-term, if it's a favorite that I'm not in love with, I'm generally not just going to leave it off the ticket.
Yeah, and I have the same reasons that you have. I'm biased. I'm an East Coast guy. I'm biased against California turf horses shipping east. I think their turf horses out there aren't as good as the East Coast turf horses. Johannes has run twice outside of California. He's 0 for 2. He ran a lousy race at Churchill on the turf, and he ran a maiden race on the dirt at Churchill that I would throw out. But It's really that turf race on, I think it was Derby Day last year, that he was awful outside of California. And then I was just reading that his layoff issues are due to he has bone bruising. And this is multiple years now that he's been laid off because of the bone bruising. So I'm not so sure I want to take a horse like that traveling 3,000 miles east trying to get a grade 1 when I think he might be up against it.
Yeah, that's not great news if you're a backer of Johannes there. I do want to mention 120-1 shot, John, because I almost put the number 10 Neat on the ticket. I don't love the post, and that is what ended up leaving me off here. That Kelso is a lot better than it looks on paper. He had to check at one point, and there was a horse that went down. Donegal Momentum went down in that race, and he was affected by that horse going down quite a bit. I thought Neat ran really well in the Kelso, all things considered, and had to come from way out of the pack. Drew the rail that day and just didn't get the trip he needed. This is a horse that I think is pretty good at a mile. I think it's his best distance. He has a win over Saratoga in 2 efforts. That was the grade 2 Hall of Fame last year over Laganos, who's also in this spot. Horse for me underneath the 10 Neat, as well as someone who might make a couple tournament tickets for me and win place tournaments at 20-1 as well. Any interest in the outside horse?
I don't. I just can't find a trip that he's going to get to win. His best races seem to be in a relatively soft pace where he can sit mid-pack and make that one run. In the races that he actually gets a lot of pace, you'd think he would close because he wants to come from behind, but he doesn't. He's pretty one-paced when the pace is fast, and he's a closer when the pace is relatively moderate. So I think the pace here could be fast with My Boy Prince and deterministic, so I would have a hard time with him. I mean, 20-1, it's hard to talk anybody off a 20-1 shot, but I think this horse finds a lot of trouble in these types of races. And from the 10 post, I really don't want him.
Yeah, the defines the trouble. Like sometimes they're trouble trip horses, and then they're horses that find trouble. Neat has checked in all 3 of his last starts. That's tough to do. It's tough to have to check in 3 starts in a row. We'll see if he can get a little bit cleaner tripped on Saturday there in the grade 1 4-star. Dave, next race on the ticket here, the 9th race, the grade 1 Saratoga Derby Invitational. I'm thinking we probably don't have to talk about this one as much. I'll let you kick it off here. Who's your top pick in the 9th at Saratoga?
So I have a pet in this race. I have a pet Test Score with Grand Motion, is one of my favorite turf horses this year. He's, to me, much like Spirit of St. Louis. He's a horse that just keeps winning races and doesn't get any respect. So I am going to use him on my tickets. He's not going to be the favorite. He's as fast as any other horse in the race coming into it. And he might be lone speed in this race, even though he's never really been on the lead. He's got very tactical speed, and there is no speed at all in this race. He may find himself just loping along in 12-second furlongs, and even the Euros that are going to try to get him is like, oh my gosh, we just let him go 6 furlongs in 1:14. How are we supposed to run him down here? So Test Score is going to be my top choice, which is a difference for me because in years past, probably in the last 4 or 5, I would throw out all the American horses and just look at the Euro shippers coming in. But I thought this was a relatively weak Euro contingent that came in to contest this race.
I disagree. I think this is the easiest race to pick, and this is the favorite I'm going to lean on. Single for me here, hot as hell here, the 7 horse coming in from Europe, who I agree with you, the lack of pace is a problem. But when you go back and you watch Hot as Hell, he was forwardly placed in every one of those races in Europe. And so I realize Europe speed and American speed, very different. But he's not going to be 10 lengths off. Like we've seen some of these horses come over and have to make this one giant run. I don't love taking a new shot here at 7-5, but like Test Score, who hey, you cannot knock Test Score for what he's done the last 3 races. Lost to Zulu Kingdom 2 back. There's absolutely no shame in that. Won the Belmont Derby, won the Transylvania. He still feels like a cut below the really good 3-year-old turf horses, especially when they come over here and you look at Hot as Hell and what he has done in Europe. He's 4 for 8 career. He's yet to win this year, but the 2 races he ran in were $13 million and $500,000 race, or $1.3 million and $500,000 races. Both Group 1s there. Won a Group 1 prior to that. He got better in the last 2 races if you look at the time form ratings. So he's an improving 3-year-old. I can't. This is a hard horse for me to get around because as you talked about how you don't think the California horses can hold a candle to the New York turf horses, I don't think our turf horses hold a candle to the better turf horses in Europe. And I feel like Hot as Hell is not a B team horse. I think this is like the A- team coming over from Europe. I think he's awfully tough to beat. So I will swallow the chalk here and take the 7. Hot as Hell is the top pick.
Yeah, and Hot as Hell is on my ticket. I went too deep with Test Score and Hot as Hell, and I really would classify him as a 1 and a 1A. Even on my press ticket, I actually pressed Hot as Hell as opposed to pressing Test Score. I agree with everything you said. I have a little system using time form. If they run a Euro time form figure or a regular time form figure in Europe that's equivalent to anything they've run in the U.S. horses, I automatically bet the Euro horse. So he's got a 115 time form rating, his last race in Sandown in England. Test Score also ran a 115. Test Score ran a 114. An adjustment I use is I add 10 to 12 points to the Euro figure, the Euro time form, to match them up to the U.S. horses. That means on figures alone, Hot as Hell is 5 lengths faster than anything else in this race. And David's morning line of 7 to 5 makes sense. And the horse is probably going to be 4 to 5 or 3 to 5. My issue was pace. Again, I think U.S. pace is certainly faster than European pace, but if they're 1-2 anywhere within a half a mile of the finish line, I'm not going to be surprised when Hot as Hell goes right on by and he wins for fun.
Now, we do have a couple other shippers in here. I didn't have any interest in the Tour of the 8. New Century, I guess, is kind of an American horse now after shipping. He was in front of Test Score from a pace perspective last time out. Irad picks up the mount here. Was there anyone else you considered using? Because for me, this was, look, Hot as Hell is the best Europe horse. Test Score is the best U.S. horse. I'm either using, and because of the 2 favorites, based on my stylistics of pick 5s, I'm never using both. And if I have Hot as Hell on top, I'm going to swallow the 4 to 5. But I didn't even really consider anybody else in this spot.
I didn't consider anybody else either. And I actually agree with your theory about never using the first and second choice in a race, especially in an 8-horse field. But the reason why I am is because we're beating the favorites in the first and the second leg.
Yeah.
So if we're getting a 10 or a 12 to 1 shot in the first leg and a 7 or 8 to 1 shot in the second leg, I'll be damned if I miss the third leg on one of the 2 horses I had that I think I'm going to lock up the leg.
Yep. Well, and you're also going to float up. I think you'll float up a little on Test Score as well. I think you're going to get every bit of the 7 to 2, maybe even 4 to 1 in that spot. And if you beat Hot as Hell as a 4 to 5 favorite, and now you've beaten 3 straight favorites, the ticket looks pretty juicy going into the final 2 legs. This is one of those situations where, I'm not going to bang you for using the top first and second pick, especially since you are playing a press ticket where you are making a decision between the 2, which to me kind of it gives you a little bit more value inside your 50-cent ticket as well. All right, let's move on here to the 9th leg, the penultimate leg of the pick 5 here. This is the middle pick 5, races 7 to 11, Saturday's Saratoga Whitney card, the grade 1 test. And oh man, is this a good race. Like we got another one that's just a banger. It's banger after banger here on Whitney Day. We'll talk about the Whitney next, but before we do that, let's talk a little bit about the test. Who is your top pick here? Grade 1 test going 7 furlongs on the dirt.
So my top pick, my top pick is the 3 Look Forward. I love this horse's race 2 back, going 7 furlongs at Churchill in the 8 bells. I mean, man, he looked like a racehorse coming out of that race. And then they got a little bit of optimistic, and they tried to stretch him back out to 1 1/8. This horse doesn't want a route. They put him in the grade 1 acorn going that distance. He ran good, but he still wants no part of 1 1/8. 7 furlongs is what he wants. He's 2 for 2 at the distance. He's turning back to the right spot here. I just think he's going to sit a perfect trip behind the 5-horse Me and Molly Me, who's the speed, and Runaway. He's got a time form U.S. figure that's best in the field. Actually, it should be second best in the field. And he's got a Thorograph figure that's also tied for second best in the field. I think he's getting his optimal at distance, and that's who I want.
Yeah, I went back and forth with Look Forwards, and we talked about these cutback sprinters. If you go to Look Forwards race 2 back, which you talked about, the 8 bells there, she was running a mile 16th. Prior to that, cuts back and goes back to the form that we saw when she was able to win the Santa Ynez at Santa Anita, going 7 furlongs. And so she's scary to me. I'm a little worried that I'm going to lose my ticket here because I left Look Forward off, but I did end up leaving Look Forward off here. I also left Echo Sound off. who I believe you left off too. So we're both going against the 9-5 morning line favorite that looked like an absolute truck last time she ran at Saratoga, winning the victory ride. Top pick for me, and a horse that I'm going to single on the press ticket, the number 1 Ragtime. And I don't usually single these type of horses. I know, I'm sure that you remember this. There was a New York tournament on horse tourneys, a big tournament. I think it was like $300,000 guaranteed, whatever it was. Ragtime debuted on that Friday, I believe it was. And she was 8-1, and she was so professional. It is so hard to win first time going 7 furlongs. To win first time going 7 furlongs from the rail without making the lead is mind-blowing when you have a field of 11, because you have to be so professional to be able to meander and weave your way through that size of field after being, passed by multiple horses early. You have to find a space, get comfortable, relax, and then pounce. She did all of that incredibly professionally, and then came back and did it again in an N1X allowance where she just destroyed this field. She was not even really asked. Gets a 96 buyer for that. You want more proof that this is a really good horse? The horse she was training was with a horse called Stars and Stripes, which won the next day in debut at Saratoga at 8-1, and then went on to win an N1X allowance as well. I just love this horse. I don't think she is trip dependent. She's got tactical speed. She's going to be able to sit behind. We know we've not seen the bottom yet from a talent perspective because she was not really asked in either of those starts. And I'm getting a 4-1 price on a horse that by far has the biggest ability to improve here because of how lightly raced she is. This is one of those, we talk about Mod at Saratoga. This is one of those horses that feels like it's a Mod at Saratoga horse. Give me the 1 Ragtime on top at 4-1.
She is on my ticket. She was my second choice. I was here for both of her wins. One was on Belmont weekend, and this last one at Saratoga. I was actually sitting at the top of the stretch watching her race, and then I watched that move coming into the stretch. It was impressive. She won for fun. She had tons of energy. She could have been on the lead at the half-mile pole, never mind just coming into the top of the stretch. It was almost like it was a learning experience for her again. My notes were very professional, beat older fillies and mares in her lost in the allowance race. And they just kept her inside and let her eat as much dirt as she could to teach her a lesson. And then when it was like, okay, she's learned enough, we'll just tip her out and we'll walk down the lane without any issues. It was ultra impressive for a second career race. And Mott doesn't just throw him in a grade 1 third time off the bench for the sake of doing it. He feels like he has something special here. And it's not going to surprise me if she does the same thing. Sits behind horses, takes dirt, pops out at the top of the lane and runs away for fun.
Yeah, you mentioned it. She's faced older twice. And that to me is the other part of this, where she's faced 3 and up twice. And there's only one other horse that has faced 3 and up. 2 others faced 3 and up, but one other's won against 3 and up in this field. And that's the 5, me and Molly McGee. You brushed over her when you were talking about look forward. Give me the speed. I'm going to be like, just give me the speed. This horse beat older last time out. Yes, there's a lot of pace in here. She is clearly the fastest horse. And I don't see Peter Urton shipping to California all that often. When Urton ships out to California and you're landing in the grade 1 test here with the speed of the speed, I'll take a shot. Give me and Molly McGee at 8-1 to make the ticket as well. Because I want the horse that's in front here. We've seen enough times that when there's a lot of speed, if someone shakes loose and everyone else is chasing, they're going to all back up. And then it makes it hard for horses like Ragtime, like Look Forward, who probably going to come from off the pace to close into that. And so I'll take me and Molly McGee, the 5 here at 8-1 to make the ticket as well.
Yeah, I have no problem with her, especially at a price. If Molly McGee was 3-1, I'd say get rid of her. I don't think she classes up well enough. But at 8-1, with the horse on the lead, likely all the way to at least the top of the stretch, that's where you got to take your best chance. I ended up going 4 deep here. I did not use me and Molly McGee. I used Kilwin as my third choice. I wasn't quite sure what to do with this horse. They had high hopes for this horse, but they started her on the grass. They ran her on the grass all of her 2-year-old season. They run her the BC juvenile filly and mare turf. Excuse me, not filly and mare, the juvenile turf. She runs well, sets a really fast pace. Comes back this year, 2 turf races. And then for whatever reason, they cut her back at Churchill to a 7 furlong stake on the dirt. And she whistles. She just runs a great race. They call it the Leslie's Lady. She runs a big Timeform US number. She runs a very good Thorograph number. And I'm wondering, if this isn't a fluke, why can't she do that again? Is her best surface actually dirt? And can she improve off of that figure and that performance? I don't know. But at 6-1 morning line, when I think Echo Sound is going to take a lot of money, I think Ragtime is going to take a lot of money. I wanna have a little bit of this horse in case that wasn't a fluke and actually dirt is her better surface.
We agree on this one. I look, the bottom side Blame is the dam sire. Blame is like a horse I'd never use his children on turf. And all of a sudden and Twirling Candy can be the dirt or turf on the top. So I don't think that this is a turf bred horse. I think this is a horse that's fast. And the switch over to the dirt, we saw that adjustment here and absolutely pops a big number. The other reason why I want to use this horse is 6-1. Rusty Arnold is also the trainer of the 6 Echo Sound, who's going to be the heavy favorite here. And yet we're deciding to put this horse in over its head against your own horse. That tells me that they think there's a lot of talent and that was not a fluke and there's some upside. So I'll take Jose Ortiz and 6-1 on the other Rusty Arnold in this spot. You did say you're going to go 4 deep. You're going to use the other Mott, which I am not using here, the outside horse Beauty Reigns.
Yeah, for a similar reason that we are going to use Kilwin. Why is Mott entering 2 if one's going to do with Ragtime? I really like Beauty Reigns' lost race, even though she lost by over 4 lengths to Echo Sound. I mean, I have a note that she made a move into a really slow pace at the top of the stretch. She still finished strong, but she was no match for Echo Sound. Echo Sound had a perfect trip in that race on a soft pace, sat right off the leader, and ran away on a track that even favored horses that were on her near the lead. Beauty Reign was up against it from the get-go. She didn't break well. She chased all the way, and she still made a move to at least threaten at the top of the stretch, or maybe even as close as the 8th pole. So I thought there was a reasonable chance that on a fair racetrack that she can turn the tables on Echo Sound, and I'm going to be getting 5 to 10 times the price on Beauty Reigns.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that last race. One of the reasons I'm not using Echo Sound is the last race. It was a 4-horse field, and Beauty Reigns lost by multiple lengths, but Beauty Reigns was on the rail and broke poorly. That immediately makes it very difficult for that horse to be able to win a 4-horse race because you're up against it from a perspective of how far back you are. You need to be forwardly placed in shorter fields. That's generally going to create more of a positive situation, especially with the way the track was playing. You also had Echo Sound pop a 101 buyer for that race. There was nothing that said she could run a 101 buyer prior to that race. It's one of those like, okay, that's great. You did it. Do it again and do it against a full field. And then I will believe you're actually that good. And I'm willing to say, yeah, 9-5 is a fair price. With what we have on paper, I'm not sure that is a fair price because there is not anything that really backs up that last number from Echo Sound.
Correct. I'm always fearful against one-hit wonders. A horse that runs a number that seems to be out of the ordinary or extraordinary. I'm always expecting them to come back to their regular race or their race prior to that. I mean, some people will call it a bounce, and I'll call it that as well. If they back it up or they can only go back slightly in their next race, they're probably the real thing. But they need to prove it to me, especially when they're going to be even money or 7-5 in that range.
It's the third favorite. Both of us are leaving off through the first 4 races here in the pick 5 sequence. We'll close it out with race number 11 from Saratoga, the Grade 1 Whitney, 1 1/8 over the dirt course there. Fun race, except we are not expected to see Mindframe, the number 1 horse. So assume Mindframe is scratching here. That's what we've heard from the Rapoli barn. Where are you going on top here for the Grade 1 Whitney?
So I have finally broken down and not used 4 favorites in the first 4 races, but my single in the Whitney is the 9-horse Fierceness. I think Fierceness is just going to sit the absolute perfect trip in this race. I mean, Chad Brown entered the Rabbit there, contrary thinking. We got real New York bred speed in Mama's Gold, who's only has one way to go out in 22 and 45 and try to run as fast as he can for as long as he can. And Fierceness, to me, is the only other horse here who has any tactical speed at all. And he's going to sit third behind 2, in my opinion, no-hope speedballs that are just trying to ensure a fast pace for Sierra Leone. And if Fierceness can relax and just run his race, he gets first jump on the speed. He's going to be 3 up at the top of the lane. And I don't particularly like Fierceness as a racehorse, but good luck making up 3 lengths in the last eighth of a mile on Fierceness, who's a real racehorse. And I mean, both Post Time's going to be coming, and Sierra Leone's going to be coming, and even Highland Falls, who could sit right behind Fierceness or just in front of them. Again, good luck trying to outrun them for an eighth of a mile when they've only gone, whatever. He's only gone 47 to the half and won 11 to 6 furlongs.
See, rabbits are interesting to me because they work if the rest of the field chases them. In this case, I don't know. Mama's Gold and Contrary Thinking might be 10 lengths ahead of Fierceness, and Fierceness is just basically relaxed on the rail because it's like, whatever, you're coming back. There is no chance, especially with 2 of you, that one of you is going to go. It almost feels like the second rabbit here, a little bit of a negative for some of those closers, because I think Fierceness relaxes and is like kind of pretends he's on the lead in third, and that should set up for a very good trip. Fierceness on top for me as well. I am going to go too deep, because I only think 2 horses can win this race. White Abarrio, the 7, going to be the other horse that I'm going to use here. I know everyone likes to talk about White Abarrio and how sometimes he performs well, sometimes he doesn't, and you've got races that are clunkers. I get that. Just take out the Met Miles. Take out the 7 furlong races from this horse's past performances. He's really good. Like, he won the Ghost Zapper, won the Pegasus Invitational, won the Breeders' Cup Classic, won the Whitney. Those are the last 4 mile and an eighth, mile and a 16th, or mile and a quarter races in the U.S. That he's not lost. Like, and he's won by lengths, open lengths in those races. He also should be able to sit a pretty good trip here. Like, I think he's one of those horses that's mid-pack, forwardly placed, and able to make a move. I don't think he's as far back from Fierceness as horses like Sierra Leone, horses like Post Time. I'm happy. I'm going to get 5-1. I think he floats up because of the Met Mile, which, hey, he's stunk in the Met Mile 3 times. Why do we expect anything different at this point? So White Abarrio, the other horse I'm going to use here at 4-1. Any interest in White Abarrio? Yes or no?
I can see it. I can see the case for him. I fear that he's more of a Gulfstream horse, even though I've seen him win at Saratoga, and he won the Breeders' Cup Classic. He won those both for Dick Dutrow, too, though. Yep. Now he's back to Safi. With Safi, he's been an absolute monster at Gulfstream and a kitten everywhere else. So,
well, it is Safi.
I know, exactly. So I'm a little fearful that his best races get left in South Florida with Safi. But if he's going to get the trip, he's definitely going to trip out as well. The same trip I see for Fierceness, we can see for White Abarrio. And White Abarrio is going to be inside of Fierceness. If he breaks alertly, he may sit right there. They may be running in tandem, 3rd and 4th, one inside of the other. And again, I think Fierceness is a better animal. I think Fierceness can beat him from the 8th pole to the wire. But if Fierceness doesn't run his race, which he's prone to do occasionally as well, even at short prices, then I don't see why White Abarrio can't win that race.
Now, one thing that I realized when I was handicapping this race, I'm not going to say never. I am probably never going to bet Sierra Leone in my life. Like, at this point, at 2-1 in fields like this, it's just too short. Like, the time to bet him was the Breeders' Cup Classic last year. I didn't have him. I wish I did. Had everything else in that sequence. But that was the pace collapsed. He got the 22:44 pace collapse going a mile and a quarter. Without that, I don't see how he should be even close to a coin flip with Fierceness. And yet every single time they're in a race together, or he is in a race, he's getting bet. And so I don't dislike Sierra Leone as a horse. I think he's super talented. I just cannot get to him at this number. I would need like 6-1 if I wanted to bet on Sierra Leone, and I'm not getting that.
Yeah, every race that Sierra Leone wins, I'm going to be out.
Yeah, I'm glad it's not just me.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's a plotter. He's a plotter's plotter. He looks like he's all in at the 3/8 pole, right? And he's going backwards coming into the stretch. And then all of a sudden he finds a second wind and makes up ground in the lane. To me, he's a complete, what I would call a sucker horse. He sucks you in to want to play them because he looks like he's closing when everybody else is stopping. Well, yeah, he is, but he's closing for 3rd. He's closing for 4th. He's closing for 2nd at 2-1, 9-5, 1-5 in the fairgrounds. I mean, this horse just has to show me that he's a consistent animal at those prices in order to get bet. And when he's in races like this, to me, he might win. So be it. If he does, I don't care if he wins at 2-1 or 9-5 or whatever his number is going to be. I do care if he's 8-1, 10-1, then I'm going to give you a completely different narrative. But at 2-1, yeah, he's going to have to beat me, and I'm never going to play a horse like that.
Yeah, it may be in the Classic this year because of how stacked I think that field is, depending on what the speed draw is. But before then, I don't see a world where I don't play him. I'm actually, and I realize why he's here, but Chad Brown has said Sierra Leone doesn't like this track. This track doesn't play to what he wants. I'm almost surprised he wasn't in the Pacific Classic. Just ship out there where I think you get a better track and favorable setup and prep for the Classic that you're going to run it anyway. So a little surprised he's even here. 2-1, way too short for me. We'll give a shout out to 10 post time. If I'm going to take a crazy shot, the 10 is the shot I want to take. There's good enough races there. I do think he's a cut below the top 3 horses in here, which are Sierra Leone, White Barrio, and Fierceness in my mind. But if someone upsets the apple cart, I think it's the 10 at a price. Was there anyone that was a price that you were semi-interested in here?
I was a little interested in Highland Falls. Same reasons we talked about with Fierceness and White Barrio. He's the one that I think, if he breaks well, he actually could get that garden trip behind the really 2 fake speed horses. He ran a great race last year in the Jockey Club here at Saratoga. I'm going to drop a name, but I saw Brad Cox this morning on the Oklahoma training track. And he was like, our horse is ready to run. I don't know if he's good enough. He may just be a grade 2 or a grade 3 animal, and it's a tough field, but he's going to run his race. So that would be the horse I'd be interested in. At least you know you have a fit horse who's going to run his race. He might not be good enough, but at least he's going to get a trip that I could see that could win. I don't think he's run fast enough to win this race in his history. He would have to still improve, but he would trip out, in my opinion, if he could win from that spot.
Yeah, it feels like it's going to be a trip that someone gets, and then Fierceness and White Barrio don't fire, and Sierra Leone gets in trouble. It takes, to me, a chain reaction of things to happen in this race for one of the 3 of them not to win. I don't think Sierra Leone has nearly as good of a shot as the odds do, say, for him to be able to win the race. One other shout out here, Michael Olson commenting, Wolfie. Wolfie's Dynagos, one of my favorite horses. The reason I able to make the run to 7th at NHC a couple years back, he kicked off that run at Gulfstream Park. He was at Saratoga today. We faded him, and we faded him with Signature. So happy how this one happened. I love Wolfies. I forever will. And Michael, thank you very much. I've still got, I can never remember what it's called, with Wolfie's Dynagos name on it, the halter, I think it is, that he was able to hook me up with. So appreciate that. But today was not the day for Wolfies. I'm happy to see in the chat. See, this other screen is absolutely killing my computer. You might notice that like every time I pull up Equibase, it starts to crackle and pause on my side. So I can't watch Saratoga right now. So happy to get the updates here from the chat there. So that's going to wrap it up here for the Pick 5 show here for the 7th through 11th at Saratoga. Before we take off, though, let's see if I can do this right. There we go. We got to talk about what tickets we actually have. So, John, as the guest, I'll let you go first here. You can give out your 50-cent and your $2 press ticket. We've got them scrolling at the bottom of the screen for anyone who's watching on YouTube as well. Or if you're listening to the podcast, go over to YouTube, see what we look like, and you can see the tickets there in case you want to write them down.
All right. So I did my 50-cent ticket. I went 3, 5, 7, 12, 13. Excuse me, 3, 5, 7, 10, 13. With 4, 7, 8, with 5, 7, with 1, 2, 3, 8, with 9, closing it with Fierceness as my single for $60. And then I played a $2 press ticket, singling the 7 in the first leg, with 4, 7, with 7 in the third leg, with 4, 3, 8, with 9, and that's an $8 ticket. So 1 by 2 by 1 by 2 by 1.
Very similar styles on how to attack this. We're both trying to fade favorites, and we're trying to get big scores along with it. My 50-cent ticket, just $45 here. I'm going 1, 5, 10, 13, 14 with 4, 6, 7, with 7, with 1, 2, 5, with 7, 9 for 50 cents. That is $45. So a cheap ticket there. And then a $5 ticket press for me. 13 with 4, 6, with 7, with 1, with 7, 9. That'll cost you $20 for $5. So getting press tickets from both of us here, not something we see a lot, but this is one of those sequences where I feel like I have opinions. Like, you don't always get that when you're covering these big days. You don't always like, hey, I really like this horse. I really like Intellect. I really like Ragtime. I really like Jefferson Street. I want to make sure if that's a day where Mike's right, I want to get paid. I want to make sure it comes back with a 5-figure score versus just having it for 50 cents.
Will you consider playing like a rolling double with those strong opinions and consecutive legs?
It depends if I play the Whitney tournament. and how I'm structured in that, because if I'm in tournaments, cash tournaments, my daily betting style changes because
Yep.
I'm going to fire big numbers inside those tournaments. I really like a horse in the second race on Saturday that I'll probably have a large win bet on if I do play that tournament. And if that's the case and I'm rolling, I'm probably looking at some doubles and some win bets, but it's all going to be more tournament style betting, which means that I'm trying again to go for broke. It's an $800 tournament. You probably need 6,000 to win it. So I'm trying to get up there as quickly as possible if that's the case. And so if I'm not in a tournament, yeah, I'll be rolling doubles and I'll be rolling pick threes and I will play the pick five pressed. Like I will have a lot of money going through this sequence if that is the case. So hopefully Saturday is a good day, John.
So, exactly. And I'll be in the same tournament and I will be thinking about some of the same strategies. And everybody now knows that if I'm in it in the lost race with a bankroll, I'm probably going all in on fierceness in some manner or respect. But I'm okay with that. One thing I will put you on the spot, though, is if you do finish and win a prize on the tournament on Saturday, you're going to have to come on my podcast, and the tournament winner was, to discuss your strategy and how you got there.
That's fair. I will happily accept that if that is the case. It'll be fun to red board that one because it's always fun to talk about winning. I was lucky enough to punch my ticket to NHC a couple weeks ago, so excited to be back there. I had to miss it last year because I was in Costa Rica, but excited to be back in the room this year. Still need the BCBC seat though, John. That's what we're chasing right now. How's your tournament year going?
I'm double qualified for the NHC. I had a big tournament at Keeneland in April that I turned $250 into $7,500.
Ooh.
I had a really large double, a first-time starter that we had worked with one of the horses that I own with 10 Strike Racing and dusted him. And we thought, this horse might be pretty good. And he went to Keeneland in a maiden special weight first-time starter, and he drifted all the way up to 17-1. He was in against a couple of blue bloods, and he won for fun for Matt Shire, who doesn't get bet as a first-time starter trainer. So I ended up getting a great bankroll and winning an NHC there at Keeneland. And just 2 weeks ago, actually it's closer to a month ago, I won a BCBC seat online in one of the Saturday tournaments that I won a feeder on a Friday to a entry on a Saturday and picked enough winners to take home the top spot, which was great.
Was it the 50 to 500 or was it the 20 to 170 that you won?
The 50 to 500. Oh, I'm sorry. It was the 20 to 170.
That's impressive. Those are tough to win. Like I don't even really play the $20 feeder. I just play the 50s to try and get into the 25, 30 person fields. I think those are so much easier to win a BCBC seat than the one you have to be literally perfect because it's one of like 70 people that win a seat.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. But one of your competitor podcast networks, we will say, the one that I do my podcast for, they have a charity funding on Fridays. They do a $20 feeder where all the house cut goes to charity.
Okay.
So, and they also, the top 4 people that finish in that feeder also get a year-end tournament that they play in to try to win a BCBC seat.
You can give In the Money shout out. I've been on In the Money shows before. Don't mind it. Yeah, and they do a great job. I think it's Thursdays. It's Thursdays where they do the $20 tournament.
So they changed it this year to do Fridays. So they mock the horse players 10 race feeder that they do for the $75 NAC tournament. Okay. And they do a $20 feeder into the Saturday BCBC. And it's a complete free roll. You still get your $20 entry. Top 10% gets a Saturday BCBC seat to try to win the $10,000 seat. But you get the added bonus that if you're in the top 4 out of the 160 person field, you go to an 80 person field at year end. They're calling it the In the Money Horse Player Tour. And they play down from 80 to 40 to 20 to a final table concept to 10. And the winner of that final 10 gets a BCBC seat. So it's no additional money to you. It's a complete add-on and sponsored by the Breeders' Cup. So to me, it's a no-brainer. If I'm going to play a feeder, I might as well play the feeder that both benefits charity and I get a potential free roll into a year-end tournament.
I love that. I will get in it. I'm pulling up horse players right now. The Friday feature, that's the low ratio. Here we go. In the Money Horse Players Tournament starts at Saratoga race at 4:36 p.m. Eastern. Yes. Saratoga 7 through 10, Del Mar 2, 4 through 8 there. Already 112 people in it as well. So glad to see it's doing well because look, aftercare very important inside this industry. So nice to see people chipping in some cash to go that direction. Make sure you check that out over on horseplayers.com. Again, that starts at 4:36 today. Great way to get into the BC. I'm excited to hear you got a seat. You'll have to come down to Southern California, head out to Del Mar for the Breeders' Cup this year.
Yeah. I have already booked my flight and booked my hotel. I will definitely be there.
I love it. Well, I very much appreciate you giving me an hour today, John, especially since I almost asked if you were in Saratoga to see if we need to start the show earlier so you could get to the racetrack, but you've already hit the Oklahoma track this morning. I'm sure you'll make it for the late pick 5, maybe the pick 6 today over at Saratoga. Thank you so much, man. This was an absolute blast. Had a great time going through these 5 races on Saturday's Whitney card.
You're very welcome. I love talking about Saratoga. I love talking to handicappers that understand tournament play and betting structure, and I always learn something when I come on a podcast with you.
Well, I appreciate that very much, John. Thank you very much, everybody, for checking us out. Appreciate everyone who joined. And I love the comments. Thank you, everybody. I know I don't go to the chat as much as Magic. I got a lot going on here. I don't usually have to do much work. I usually just tell you who I like. So I appreciate everyone there sticking with us as well. We'll be back next week for another Magic Mike Show, episode 600. No idea if Magic has a plan for it. That's not my thing normally, but appreciate everyone tuning in, and we will catch you next week. Good luck Saturday at Saratoga. Ooh, we're going to play.
The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com. The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.